Let's jump into my mock draft now. Enough of that side talk. So yeah, at the top here, we got Jacksonville. I'm gonna keep it simple. I did think offensive line there. Evan Neal was a thought. But you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson with the culture, and I think he may just be the best and safest player at this time. Pair him with Josh Allen. I forgot to mention too, though. I could see Evan Neal being an option just because they did draft. No, this wasn't this regime. They drafted Caleb Chase on an edgy guy
Sure.
a couple of years ago. He hasn't really panned out, and I'll admit once again I was wrong on him. I thought he would be better. He hasn't been. Um, Trayvon Walker is a thought here too, just because of that versatility. He can play inside and outside if they wanted to make him work. But I just think Aiden Hutchinson's just too good of a player, especially on both ends of the ball. That they, for a team that's gone it wrong so many times, just go with Aiden
Right.
Hutchinson here. So that leaves Detroit. I think they get their Cameron Jordan here and Trayvon Walker, a guy who may put up double-digit sacks in his career and has the potential to be that guy, but I think could fill the Cam Jordan role of, you're gonna set the edge a lot, be a big defensive end, and then but still be on there in passing downs to get the quarterback, maybe kick in on defensive tackle and obvious passing downs and work your way in there. So he is who I have going to Detroit. So I just Dan Campbell loves them some knee biters, some big boys. They add another one there. This leaves number 3, the Houston Texans. Like you mentioned, just one of the toughest teams to go with. Have Laramie Tunsil, and then not much else. I mean, on either side of the ball.
Right.
I went with Evan Neal. I think they're going to give Davis Mills a shot, it sounds like. So even if he isn't the guy, get at least a tackle for maybe the next guy. And I'm sure they can make it work. Evan Neal played guard at times in Alabama. I'm sure he can play right tackle if he needs to. And then even if maybe a team's desperate for a left tackle trade deadline, maybe they can feel free to ship Laramie Tunsil now that they have Evan
Right.
Neal for multiple picks. So Evan Neal, I just feel, is a good, solid pick there for them, for the Houston Texans. Now we go to 4 to the New York Jets, who, like John, I'm going to Sauce Gardner. You need a lockdown corner. You mentioned they had really nobody there. I know Robert Saleh can coach him up, but at the end of the day, especially in the AFC, all those wide receivers that we have in the NFL nowadays, you need a guy where 3rd and short, 4th and short, man to man, you stick him on. You're on that guy, and I trust you to take care of him. And I think you hear his swagger already in the interviews and such. Like, this is a guy that's kind of built for New York, and I think that fans will love. So I'm going to Sauce Gardner there. Any notes or anything you want to mention, John, thus far?
I like all the picks. Obviously, I mean, it's the same 4 players that I had, just a little different order outside of Sauce. But this feels honestly more realistic than mine because I feel like the realistic option that Jacksonville does is Aiden Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker, one of the edge guys. And then once one of those guys goes, I don't think Detroit goes tackle because obviously they took Penei Sewell last year.
So
I don't
Taylor Decker.
still have Taylor Decker. So I think the tackles are, obviously really good. And even if they wanted more offensive line, they already have Frank Ragnow at center. Like, they have a very good offensive line. So I think they absolutely go defensive end because they lost Trey Flowers too. That's another underrated piece of that. And then obviously if Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker are gone, I think it's like you got to go Evan Neal. Like, he just feels like the best available player to me after that spot. And like you said, provides them maybe another tackle. They've always struggled at offensive line. Like, they haven't had a very good offensive line in like a decade. So that gives them another tackle option that you can pair with Laramie Tunsil. Maybe he replaces Laramie Tunsil. You got options there. So I like the top 4.
And speaking of offensive tackle, that's who I'm going at 5. I will say as a precursor to 3, it was tough between Evan Neal and this guy, which is Ike Ekwonu, who I have going at 5. But just between those two, I do want to say Evan, I just feel like is better at pass protection, which is maybe more valued. While Ike, I think, is a little bit more of a nastier run blocker. And the Giants need, as some people would say, some hog maul. They need some big boys. They need to kind of create an attitude.
Don't remind Giants fans of Dave Gettleman.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I think Icky's a guy that can play, like you mentioned, play on the right side, play a guard if he needs to. He has a little bit of versatility. I think just gives you that edge and that you might need for the rest of your linemen, and just talent wise, I think he does have a little bit of more upside maybe than an Evan Neal. He could be very good. Nonetheless, I think he's still well deserving of top five. And I think that because Carolina's behind them, I think that's why they get their tackle first. So I'm going Icky, or aka Ike McQuanu, out of NC State there, which does leave the Carolina Panthers. I'm not gonna lie, I put Charles Cross here first, but then I thought, your boy Matt Rule. I know that they've been kind of against the quarterback. I have them going Kenny Pickett here. I don't think Kenny Pickett is a top 10 talent. I still think he's a first round quarterback. And I mentioned he's the safest of all the quarterbacks. And I think you just need a good year at quarterback. And I think, once again, another reason we mentioned before this, we're going to be wrong. Everyone's going to be wrong. Maybe they find a tackle or a guard that's suitable in the second, third round. There are some of those, and there's always a history of there's going to be one or two there. So maybe they get kind of lucky there. I'm just not sure if a quarterback they want's going to be there. I'm not sure if Sam Darnold's the guy. So I have Kenny Pickett here at 6 for the Panthers. Once again, this is Aaron in the GM spot, kind of trying to save Matt Rule's job / have a good year to build on. But I wouldn't be shocked if they go offensive line there. But speaking of offensive line, and this is maybe a little bit of a shock. Once again, I don't think this guy's going top 10. I think I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think people would, especially regarding his position. But this is where Mr. Linderbaum, Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa goes. I think he reminds me a lot of Jason Kelsey coming out. Once again, we didn't get to talk O-line. But he can do a lot of things. And once again, setting a precedent as the Giants. Okay, we have our center tackle set, hopefully, because they've drafted a lineman before. But once again, like you said, no excuses for Daniel Jones. We've given you and Saquon some good pieces to build on, and obviously with Brian Daboll, offensive-minded head coach, I think he can make the pieces work. So Tyler Linderbaum, guard / center. I think he's best at center. I have him there at 7. I do not expect him to go in the top 10. Honestly, I expect the Giants to probably trade out one of these picks, move back, gain more assets, maybe grab him or someone else later. But edge was definitely a thought here as well. I did think about Kayvon there as well, like you did. But now we go to number 8, the enigma that is the Atlanta Falcons. I think they take the opportunity. They go edge, and they go with Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. It is scary. They missed on Tack McKinley a couple years ago. Brought in Dante Fowler, didn't work. Vic Beasley didn't work. It is scary because they just haven't hit. Jordan Davis was a thought, but at the end of the day, you need a good edge guy, and this is a team that can, let Jermaine Johnson. I think he's pro ready anyway, but let him do his thing. Maybe build some hope. Have the pairing of him and AJ Terrell be a good pairing defensively, and Grady Jarrett, of course, and then just keep building on that. So I have Jermaine Johnson going there. So in case you need a review, John, Icky at 5, Kenny Pickett at 6, Tyler Linderbaum at 7, and Jermaine Johnson at 8.
Yeah, I mean, I like it for the Giants. I almost did the same rationale where you take Icky because you're scared the Panthers might do it, which obviously in my mock I have the Panthers doing it. But I could totally I think that's a very realistic option. I wouldn't be shocked if they took Icky there. I like the rationale too for Kenny Pickett. I mean, I think that maybe if there's a little desperation from Matt Rule or anybody in that team, because Matt Rule is the GM. I don't think they have an actual GM. I'm pretty sure he has control of the roster.
Both player personnel. Gotcha.
Yeah, because I know that was a big thing that he wanted when he moved to the NFL. Is he wanted that Belichick, kind of power that he controls the team, because that's what he had in college. So maybe if he wants to sort of save his job, the quarterback is the one to do it. They've taken a couple swings. They had Teddy Bridgewater, then they had Sam Darnold, and just nothing's working out. And so maybe they think that Kenny Pickett or a quarterback can be that guy. So I honestly would not be shocked if they took a quarterback there. I agree with you. I don't think the Giants are going to take back-to-back offensive linemen, but I mean the Giants and their fans have been complaining about that offensive line for the last 6, 7. I mean, honestly, since they won their last Super Bowl, they've been complaining about that offensive line. So you want to fix it. This would do it. I mean, so that's something to consider. And then obviously number 8, I mean, I had them taking Kayvon Thibodeau, so we're right there, edge rusher. I agree with you. It's kind of scary, the Falcons, because the top two guys are gone, and after that, it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And like you said, they've missed on Vic Beasley. They missed on a couple different guys. So, maybe that scares some Atlanta fans. But I still think that Jermaine Johnson's a great player. I mean, he had a lot of great tape, so I could totally see that happening too.
Yeah, Atlanta's truly one of those teams that can go almost any position. Any position.
Yeah.
And I would be shocked too.
That's the only one.
Yeah, except tight end. They have Calvin. Just before I move on to it, it wouldn't shock me too. 7-8, those two are two. I think. If I'm not sure what the odds are, but in terms of being traded, I think those are very good hot spots. Yeah, I'm not saying people bet on that. I'm just saying, maybe look into it. Put $1 on something. I don't know. Anyways, now we go to number 9, the Seattle Seahawks, who are also in a rebuild. This is the pick they got via Denver. I have them going Charles Cross. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but you got to stop having bad O-lines because you're not always going to have a Russell Wilson. You don't have him now. And I think you start kind of building the blocks back up, start with the trenches, offensive line. So you get Charles Cross, who, there are concerns about it. He's not as polished in the run game, maybe. But once again, kind of a team that's maybe on a different timeline, can take a year or two to develop some guys. Some people have him as the best tackle, so I do see that upside. So, I have him at 9, going to the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Jets are back on the board, and earlier I had them taking Sauce Gardner. It is very tempting to go wide receiver again, and I'm going to preface this going forward because I'm not gonna ruin that, but I think wide receiver is pretty deep, and once again, this is me drafting, so most of the time, in case people who don't know me, I'm a patient guy. So I have them going with linebacker Devin Lloyd here. I know they have CJ Mosley, but he's been a little underwhelming, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's a cut candidate soon just because of his contract. You get your kind of Fred Warner of the defense. You have, your very good corner. I know they signed Carl Lawson last year. I know he tore his Achilles, and hopefully he can get back. And they saw Quinnen Williams. So, yeah, I think you go with your linebacker, your quarterback for the defense, Devin Lloyd. We didn't talk linebackers, but I think he's the best one. I think he not nearly as good as Micah, maybe a step or two down. Very good in pass pro, very good in run, not in pass coverage, very good in run blitzing and run defense. Can play in the trash. He's just versatile. So I think you grab Devin Lloyd, go double dip on the defense, and you can get wide receivers, especially since the tackles just went, the main 3. And Linderbaum, although this could be a good spot for Linderbaum, I think you can afford to wait a little bit on line on offense. So that's what I have there. And at 11, another team that's like they could go a lot of different ways. The Washington Commanders. That's where I have safety Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Like you mentioned, they don't have many safeties on the roster. Let go of Landon Collins. I think he's an upgraded Landon Collins. He can play in the box, can cover tight ends, slot receivers if you need to. I think he's one of the safest picks in the draft. So, Kyle Hamilton at 11. And then at 12, I'll stop saying, but previously I can get a good feel for Minnesota. Okay, they're going to do this. I know Mike Zimmer. We play him twice a year. I don't know. Like you said, I had no pulse on this team either. So if I'm the GM, I go with the cornerback. I go with the safe pick, Jalen Amore Davis. Like, Minnesota's kind of in this weird spot where like the roster looks like they could be competitive this year, but what does the coaching staff think? So I went Jalen Amore Davis, solid corner. I think he could be your number 1 guy, like I mentioned, but you still have Kirk Cousins in the offense. I think they'll be rolling along. So I think you really, like you mentioned, add to the defense, help them out. So I have, which I need to update this thing, but I have Jalen Amore Davis, which I have to look up here. But while I'm looking that up, thoughts?
I mean, the Vikings taking corner. Mike Zimmer would be proud. I hope I hope Washington doesn't get Kyle Hamilton. That would be kind of scary. I don't want him in the NFC East. Who did you have at the other 2 picks?
Devin Lloyd, Jets.
Devin Lloyd.
Charles Cross. You're
right.
Seattle.
Russell Wilson will be pissed if Seattle finally drafts an offensive lineman.
But they got Cross because they traded him. So, in a way, thank you, Russell.
But at the same time, he's sitting there like, wow, you couldn't have gotten me some offensive linemen?
Got you Dwayne Brown at the end of his rope.
I hear you, but maybe if
No, I
they
feel you,
didn't
yeah.
draft always injured Rashad Penny in the first and got him an offensive lineman, maybe he's still there. Anyway, so there's that, and then Devin Lloyd. I mean, man, Robert Saleh in that defense would start looking pretty serious with
I mean,
Sauce and the Devin Lloyd.
also my thought is you got to look at your division. Mostly, you play
Yeah,
these guys. You play Miami, you're gonna need a rangy linebacker to get out, and then
right,
same with the corner. So, and you play Buffalo, another team we know Buffalo's that pass heavy team. So
right.
that was a little bit of my ideology there. For
Yeah,
those.
and I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens because I do like the comparison you made to Fred Warner with Devin Lloyd. I think that feels like a very Robert Saleh influence sort of draft right there. Anyway,
But
I
I
like
will
it.
say I've been wrong because especially I thought Vic Fangio would freaking draft a linebacker his first 2 years because like I think that was the Devin Bush, Devin White, those guys, and he never did. He would trade
I
up and
thought he
got.
was going to draft Parsons last year, and he
Yeah, I
didn't.
thought so
So
too. I was like, he needs his guy. Well, needs his Roquan Smith. He just turned out to be solid, but he needs a somebody, and he never did. So, like I said, once again, we're not in the weeds. We don't know. Sometimes they
right,
go the opposite way. Sometimes the defensive guy goes offense because their mindset is, well, I'll get some linebacker third, fourth round that I can trade, coach
right.
up. So, all right, now we go to the Texans, who once again need help everywhere. Kind of. I went with George Karlaftis. Versatility here, kind of again. So I gotta start building that D line. Can take your time with them a year or two, like I mentioned when we did the edge. It's kind of raw, especially in his technique, but a guy you can be patient with. He can take his bumps, learn from his mistakes in his first year or two. But the physical specimen is deserving of the first round, and it's not like he's that raw. He showed moments and spots of already having good technique and potential. He just needs to refine that. So I have Mr. Karlaftis. They are going to the Houston Texans at 13. Now that leaves Baltimore. I did really think O-line, but because, like I mentioned, most of the guys are off here, I think especially interior line is really what they need. I think they find one later in the draft. I have them going with Jordan Davis here. Baltimore, a team that loves their big dudes. I know they brought back Michael Pierce, but I'm sure they're like, you know what? Let's grab Jordan Davis. Have Michael Pierce, Jordan Davis, and Calais Campbell out there for first two downs. That's gonna be scary. And honestly, like I said, I think Jordan Davis can be viable in third downs. He's not gonna play a lot, but I think he reminds me a lot of the Vita Veas or just a big dude that can push the pocket, or like even why am I Vince Wilfork? I don't know why I couldn't remember Vince Wilfork. Just a big dude that's going to take up space, even in the pass game, and it opens up everything else. So I have Jordan Davis going to Baltimore, even though I really don't want to see that, even though I'm in the NFC. So now we go back to the Philadelphia Eagles, or actually, I'm sorry, this is their first pick. This is the pick they have got via Miami. I have them going Trent McDuffie here. So I think you had them going Trent McDuffie later. He ended up on the
No,
Eagles.
I had him in that pick right
Okay, we
there.
had him right at this pick. I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah, you mentioned inside, outside. They have Darius Slay. You're facing the Dallas Cowboys. They got good receivers. We know the Giants have plenty of good receivers too. Commanders, as of right now, still have Terry McLaurin, and they could, maybe Diami Brown develops. Nonetheless, it's a passing league, and as good as Darius Slay's been, he's getting up there in age. At some point soon here, he's gonna have to go. So I went when I could have with Trent McDuffie here for the Eagles to help solidify that cornerback spot. Something they've been desperately trying to do since their Super Bowl. All right, and then now at 16, via the trade from Philly that they got the pick from Indianapolis, New Orleans Saints on the clock. I totally forgot I did this, but this is where I have to go on Matt Corral. Jameis coming off the ACL. I think their line's solid enough, and they've been good enough where they can find pieces later in the draft. And the same thing with wide receiver. They could get one later. I just think right now, Taysom Hill, I think they're going to end up using more as a weapon. I thought Taysom would be a solid quarterback. Didn't work out. I think their defense is there's one of the really reasons they stayed relevant last year. So I don't think you need to add much there. So yeah, I have Mr. Matt Corral, if I can find him right here for this spot. There he is, 49. All right, so Matt Corral going to the Saints there. So let me recap for you quick, John. George Karlaftis to the Texans at 13. Jordan Davis to the Ravens. McDuffie to the Eagles. Corral to the Saints at 16.
Yeah, George Karlaftis. I mean, I think I had edge in the first round or in my mock at number 3. So I can totally see them taking an edge rusher because obviously you have Evan Neal there. So I could totally see them taking an edge rusher in that second pick that they got.
Kind of same thing. Like I think he had Trayvon Walker to them, right?
Yeah,
So
I had
kind
Walker.
of not as good as Walker, but as a lesser guy where he can play, has some versatility. So
Right. Man, Jordan Davis would be scary in Baltimore and
he's their type of guy, though. He's their type of
he
guy.
is, and this is an underrated aspect to it. They play in a division with Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, very, very good running backs. Like those guys are all very good. We know the Browns are going to want to run the ball. Big Ben's gone, so Steelers are probably going to want to run the ball. And obviously the Bengals have Joe Burrow and all that kind of stuff, but they're still going to want to run the ball with Joe Mixon too, and their improved offensive line. So, I mean, yeah, you just beef up your run defense even more. I think that's a really solid fit. Trent McDuffie, I had the Eagles taking him as well, so we're agreed there. And I mean, Matt Corral, he's my number 1 ranked quarterback in the class. I have heard rumblings that the whole reason the Saints traded to get a second pick in this draft in the first round, they traded next year's first to get a first here, is because they potentially want a quarterback. So I wouldn't be shocked by it.
Yeah, I just think he's their type of guy. Play action, quick release, good arm to push it downfield if they get a deep field threat, and just accurate. So that's why I put him there. So yes, let's go to the Chargers, who are probably really upset that that Mr. Jordan Davis went. But I think they still go to Georgia, still get a defensive tackle. They get Devontae Wyatt, like you mentioned, a little more versatile. They still had Jerry Tillery a couple of years ago at Notre Dame. I know he hasn't really panned out. Maybe I'm not. I think he's still on the team. Hopefully, he can turn it around. But I think Devontae Wyatt is definitely more of a solid pick, even if he can't be the true run stuffer that they might want him to be. I think he can still be that 3-4 D end ish type guy where he'll cover his gaps. He's not going to command double teams, but I think he'll be very good in the run game. He's not going to be the sexiest pick, at least not right away. I won't be shocked if he does get some sacks, but especially in regards to being pro ready, they definitely did, like you mentioned, did a lot of different techniques at Georgia. So I think he'll be really prepared for whatever they ask him to do, and they can move him around along with the other 2 guys that they have. So that's why I have Devontae Wyatt, Georgia, for the Chargers at 17. Now we go back to the Eagles, and I'm going defense again. Going with safety Daxton Hill. I just think he, once again, provides a lot of versatility. He can play the safety, which they haven't really had a good one since Malcolm Jenkins. He can also, play inside, bump inside if they do get McDuffie. If he's on the outside, Slay's on the outside, he can cover the slot if he needs to. Tight ends as well. So yeah, I think he's solid enough in the run where if they want him in the box a little bit to help because they don't have great linebackers, he can do so. So he is who I have there at 18. Let me put him there on this one. And now we go back to the Saints. And the Saints at 19 via Philadelphia. This is where they get their guy, their deep threat, their main receiver, especially if Michael Thomas goes. If not, then this is a great duo to have. Jameson Williams from Alabama. Once again, they can afford to be patient with him, maybe, and kind of ingratiate them to their offense. And they have a solid system around where he doesn't really need to do much right away. He can just kind of be the deep threat at first, and then get more and more involved in the playbook. Especially they do get Matt Corral. I mean, once again, they can dice you up short game with Kamara, Thomas, and then they can hit some bombs with Jameson Williams, and Williams can also work the middle too, I think. So he's who I have at 19. 20 is Pittsburgh, and I want to preface this. I think I'm with you. I think that they're going Malik Willis here. I think you mentioned
I had them taking a corner.
Yeah, I think a corner, but I think you mentioned that said that you're pretty sure it's gonna be. It won't be shocking if it's Willis because they've already been linked to him.
There's reports that Mike Tomlin is very high on him.
Well, and Pittsburgh, and I was listening to Chris Sims on Button, and he brought a very good point. Pittsburgh's not good at hiding their intentions. Mike Tomlin was front and center for Najee
Everyone
Harris
knew
last
they were
year,
taking Najee.
and
Everyone.
then Mason Rudolph, he was right there, and they knew they were taking Mason. And same thing with who's the rocket scientist, Tennessee, Josh Dobbs. I just think he was front and center right there from Malik Willis, and I don't think Malik did anything to discourage Mike Tomlin. But if I'm the GM, I roll the dice with Mr. Trubisky, maybe get a core quarterback next year. You can be patient. You're Pittsburgh. You might attract someone. You go O-line. You need to get back in your Pittsburgh ways of dominating the trenches, especially with, like you mentioned, the division that you're in. I have Pittsburgh going. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M here. We mentioned about John's mock versatility, can play guard and tackle, something that they kind of need right now, either way, and on either side probably too, and just helps open a lane or two more for Najee Harris, something he didn't really have last year. So those are the four.
I mean, if Baltimore's taking Jordan Davis, then
yeah. Once again, it's kind of reaction like we saw with when Denver got Bradley Chubb that year. The Raiders went and got Colton Miller, which did work. Not saying it's a reach, but sometimes you got to be a little reactionary. But those are the four: Devontae Wyatt to the Chargers, Daxton Hill to the Eagles, Jameson Williams to the Saints, and Kenyon Green to the Steelers.
Obviously, I mean, I had Jordan Davis going to the Chargers. If any of the Georgia defensive tackles are available for the Chargers, I think they're going to take them because they need run defense really badly, and they need it in the middle of that defense. So I agree with that. I hope the Eagles don't do a full reclamation project on their secondary because it's fun seeing Dak and the receivers torch them, when we match up against them. So I hope they don't, get a corner
throw 80%.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I like Jameson Williams to the Saints. Obviously, I had him going higher, but I had them taking Chris Olave, a wide receiver. I think if Jameson Williams was there, I would easily have them taking him. So I love that. And I think that he'd be a crazy good fit again alongside Michael Thomas because Michael Thomas is more of the size, the route running, sure hands, where Jameson Williams can be the explosive burst, speed, big plays downfield kind of a guy. So I love that. And then, I mean, I agree with you with the Steelers. It'd make me sad if Kenyon Green was gone, but I mean, their offensive line last year was pretty bad. So I wouldn't be shocked if, maybe if we're not going to take a quarterback, let's at least make life on Najee Harris a little bit easier. So
alrighty. So now we go to 21, the New England Patriots, probably the biggest enigma. I went with Zion Johnson. They traded their guard Shaq Mason to the Bucks. They kind of do need a little bit of interior line help. Run game wasn't as good last year. I went with Zion Johnson, probably one of the more solid guard picks here. Once again, he invested a first-round pick in Mack Jones. I know everyone wants him to go receiver. They missed on a couple first-rounders, missed on N'Keal Harry. I think receivers probably something that they'll wait till the second round for. But once again, I'd be more inclined to think that New England trades out of this pick because Bill Belichick's that type of guy where he wants more picks as opposed to the higher pick here at 21. So Zion Johnson out of Boston College stays pretty close to home there. And now my Green Bay Packers are on the clock. And I went with Christian Watson here. I think he's a little bit more polished than my guy that I think I had Alec Pierce at 2, if I remember correctly. I think he just brings a little bit more, obviously I think he's a bigger wide receiver, more of a Josh Gordon, Chase Claypool-ish type guy. I know it's not Green Bay's cup of tea, but once again, I'm sitting here and I'm just saying, I think Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, you give him this guy, listen, and I'm the GM. I know they're on bad terms. I'm saying, listen, guys, if you can't make this guy work, I don't know what to tell you. So, Jameson Williams, pretty good raw prospect. I don't even think he's that raw. I think he's a lot more polished than some believe. So, I have him there at Green Bay for number 22, and I would love for him to go there in real life. Now we go number 23. Arizona Cardinals. You went with edge. I'm going cornerback. You got to be able to lock some people up every now and then. I think they generate enough pressure on their own via their crazy blitzes that, they may leave their corners more vulnerable. I went with Andrew Booth Jr. here out of Clemson. I think he's very good in zone. I think he can be very good in man. Very good, pretty good at press already, and has good speed too. Where maybe if he does slightly get beat, he can catch up to guys on a wide receiver if they somehow get the better of him off the press. And I think Arizona's more of a zone scheme anyway. What he ran similar to Clemson. So I have him there at number 23, going to the Cardinals, and now your Cowboys. And now everyone's probably, if you've been following, and I'm scrolling up on our screen here, where is Kayvon Thibodeau? This is where the fall stops. I think a little bit of Jerry here. I wouldn't mind a little bit of Jerry, but nonetheless, got a good defense. I know Micah was great on the edge. He still got DeMarcus Lawrence, but man, wouldn't it be? I think Kayvon could still be a good contributor, and both short term and long term. Not a lot of pressure on him right away, although he is in Dallas, so there's already going to be pressure because he has a star in the helmet. But I just think maybe get online later. But right now, build a little bit more on that defense, make it a real presence, especially since he had to play the Eagles, who have a very good line already. And if my draft goes the way it goes, maybe the Giants, they might have a solid line as well. Thinking about the big boys, the Bucks, very good offensive line too. So you got to find a way, build up on those edge defenders, be able to stop the run, get after the quarterback. So I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau here. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Oops. No. Can I undo?
Did you take the wrong person?
I took the wrong person. I forgot to put in my Andrew Booth pick, but I'll just swap them. We all saw what I was saying. Andrew Booth is not going to the Cowboys. He swept that around. So anyways, Zion Johnson, Patriots, Christian Watson, Green Bay, Andrew Booth to the Cardinals, Kayvon to Dallas. What are your thoughts?
I mean, for Zion Johnson, that feels like a very New England pick, taking somebody in the trenches, non-sexy pick. That's what they do typically. So not surprised by that one. Christian Watson to the Packers. I had him going to your Packers in the next pick, so I could see it happening. Well, I don't know who the Packers like, so I don't know if it'll happen. But I could see them taking a receiver.
We both mocked it, knowing the pod curse. It's not going to happen. But go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Maybe I shouldn't have.
No, it's okay.
Cardinals taking a corner. I mean, I mentioned it. I could see the corner being the other option. Corner or edge were really the two main needs for me for the Cardinals. So I could totally see that. You get a guy next to Byron Murphy that you could throw on the outside, and you just feel confident about it. So I could see that happening. And the Cowboys, I don't know if you saw the reports, but there's been some reports recently that if Kayvon Thibodeau drops, they're thinking of trading up.
Oh, I didn't see those. This is purely off the noggin.
I hope they don't trade up.
You hope that he falls.
If he falls, I'm very happy with the pick. I just don't want to trade up for anybody. There's nobody in this draft that I'm like, man, we got to trade up for someone. I don't want to lose assets to go get somebody because I don't think that there's like that one prospect that I'm crossing my fingers for. So if he falls there, I'd love it. I think Dan Quinn could get a lot out of him. Dan Quinn, great defensive coordinator. He's shown the ability to get a lot out of different guys. And obviously Randy Gregory coming off a career best year this past season. We lose him to the Broncos. So maybe you don't feel super confident like Dante Fowler fully replacing that production. So you get Kayvon Thibodeau to sort of rotate in there with him. So I could see that happening. I just hope we don't trade up for it.
Yeah. By the way, like I said, I think another reason Christian Watson won't go to Green Bay in real life. It's like I said, we like to have guys that are already pro ready and, already kind of what they are, even though I would like more upside at times. Anyways, now we go to Buffalo. This was another hard pick. I thought about Treylon Burks here. I really did. We messaged it about it. I really thought about him. He would be add a good physicality and size to that wide receiver room, build upon that offense, make it even scarier. But I think we forget that Bills kind of had to come back last year against the Chiefs. That defense kind of started falling apart once Tre'Davious White went out. You mentioned Jordan Poyer could be out the door, so their defense may need some help. Safety was a thought, but this is kind of a deep safety class in my opinion. So I think they wait. They grab cornerback Marcus Jones from Houston. We didn't get to talk about him much. He was on the outside looking in for me. I think he's a very slot kind of guy. You have Tre'Davious White on the outside. Marcus Jones, I think, can be very good in zone. They love to run a lot of zone. And I think if necessary, he is a little undersized, but he can play more of the free safety, back end kind of Earl Thomas-ish kind of role where he can cover a lot of ground if they want to move him around, if Jordan Poyer and their contract dispute don't work out. Also, that I know they have Micah Hyde as well. So he's who I got there, going to Buffalo, get some cornerback help. I did think about Mr. McCreary there as well. He's more of a boundary guy. I think he could easily be a fit there. But yeah, Buffalo, it was either cornerback or wide receiver. I went Marcus Jones. And let me find him here. If I can spell. Okay. So I went Marcus Jones there. Most of my picks. Some of my picks here are in the weeds. Anyways, now we go to 26. Tennessee Titans. Is a thought wide receiver here too, but they traded for Robert Woods. They're more of a run-heavy team. They don't run. So I went with the safety here. Lewis sign. Versatility. I know they have. Why am I blanking on his name? The other safety.
Kevin Byard.
Kevin Byard. Thank you. Very good safety. I don't expect him to slow down within the next few years. But why not add another safety in there with him? They have good corner play. They've managed to get that. Their D-line, the front seven's kind of sorted itself out. I know Tannehill did not have a good playoff game last year, but for the most part, he's been solid. I mean, they got the 1 seed for a reason. He was part of that reason, along with the good defense, and that was without Derrick Henry. I think that they'll be fine. And if anything, they hit on AJ Brown in the second round. I won't be shocked if they do go wide receiver then. And maybe they hit another home run there. But nonetheless, here I have them going safety with Lewis Sign. I just think the versatility, they can do a lot of things with them and make their defense even better. So that's who I have there. Now we go to the Bucs at 27. Yeah, another Bucs kind of a team that have embarrassment of riches, sort of. They're good at wide receiver, solid O-line, solid running backs. Thought about maybe a corner here. That is the only other thought I had. Thought about Stingley. I know he's still sitting on the board for those that are watching me right now or watching on YouTube. But I'm going with the defensive lineman from Texas A&M, DeMarvin Leal. I just think his versatility helps too. He can play defensive tackle, play defensive end. Todd Bowles, he knows he likes to move those guys around, do a lot of things. He likes to rotate people in and out. I know they went to Joe Tryon last year, who's very good on the edge. They did bring back Sue, I think, right?
I think he's still technically a free agent, but he's been tweeting at them,
So I don't know what happened there. If they don't bring back Sue, then it's even perfect. Kind of fills. I'm not saying he is a Dominican Sue, but fills a role that Sue kind of played, where he played, mostly kind of defensive end / D tackle and can do different things. So that's who I have there for. Did I already? Where's Leo? All right. There's the Marvin Leal from Texas A&M going to the Bucs. Now we got my Packers once more around the clock. Really did think about wide receiver here, but Bakhtiari, he's had some injuries. The ACL injury took a little longer last year. Also going to be missing our guard Elton Jenkins, who's very good, versatile as well. Got a solid center last year, late in the draft. So I went with the tackle here, Trevor Penning, out of Northern Iowa. Feel like he can play right tackle. We're pretty good at developing. I honestly don't think we're going to tackle in the first round, but it's hard to know who's coming up the ranks for teams in terms of offensive linemen. They may be this guy might be rated this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know, even as a plugged-in Packers fan. So I'm going with Trevor Penning here for the tackle here. Solidify the O-line while Rodgers is there. Defense was good enough last year without Jair Alexander. I think with adding in Jair, they'll be better this year. Going with the tackle there for Green Bay. So if you need a rundown, Bills, Marcus Jones, cornerback. Titans, safety, Lewis Sign. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, DeMarvin Leal, defensive lineman, and Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I have no complaints here. Buffalo, I had them taking a corner as well, so I could see it happening. Titans, I mentioned I almost went with a safety there.
Yeah, that's what, when you said that, I smiled. I was like, oh, I did go with the safety.
Yeah, I almost considered it, so no problems there. Packers, I could totally see them taking a tackle because
we love tackle. We love we love offensive and defensive line in the first round, even though we don't hit a lot.
Plus, Bakhtiari, like you said, he struggled with some injuries recently, so maybe they're thinking a little bit long term about like this guy could maybe one day replace him as the starting left tackle. And then the Bucs taking a defensive tackle. I didn't even think about the fact that Sue wasn't on the team yet, or is no longer on the team. I mean, he might get re-signed, but it's. I mean, I don't know if there's other interest from other teams out there. What's going on? But it seems like they would have re-signed him pretty quick after they brought Brady back, if that was the plan. So I could totally see that happening too, to get somebody else alongside Vita Vea. So yeah, I like all 4 picks.
Alrighty, so for you LSU people, Derek Stingley people, this is where the fall ends. Although, like I said, I feel like a team's gonna take a chance on the first round, and like we mentioned, I believe in the ability. Just gotta find the right spot. And like you mentioned, what better team than Kansas City? They've handled Tyreek Hill's situation. They've handled other Frank Clark had that situation last year. Derek Stingley's not going to be much. This is not much compared to those. It's just, hey man, you want to play football? Well, and maybe it was a culture thing. Maybe the fact that LSU was winning and on top, he was motivated. Well, guess what? You're going to Kansas City. We got Mahomes. We're set, man. Like, you want to play ball? Let's play ball. I would go with Stingley here. They lost Tre'Davious Ward in free agency. L'Jarius Sneed's been okay, but once again, like we mentioned, you got the Bills. You got all these really good teams with good wide receivers. You need someone. I mean, they spent most of their time doubling Stephon Diggs. That Gabriel Davis went off for them last year, and I think so. I got Derek Stingley Jr. here. They're banking on his talent, and that they can tap into that talent. And then 30, you lost Tyreek Hill. You get Alec Pierce. Now, it may not be Tyreek Hill, a little bit better size, and just very good ball skills. I think he'll fit in pretty good right away. Honestly, I think he'll be better than Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more snaps at the end, within a few weeks than Scantling. I think he'll still be used Scantling, but I just think Alec Pierce fills a lot of the boxes that they need. Size, speed. They mentioned they're trying to get more versatile. I think he's a little bit of everything that they want. Obviously he was my second-ranked wide receiver, so I have him going here to Kansas City since they do have they still need a weapon, although they signed all those guys. So he's the one that fills that spot. And then the Bengals here at 31, I had them going corner. Roger McCreary here. Even though Odell went out Odell getting injured that game, not saying they did it on purpose, it's kind of a lifesaver because before that they had either double Cooper Kupp or Odell Beckham. They're having issues with that, and I just think that you get Roger McCreary, pretty good, kind of similar to Carlton Davis, who also went from Auburn. Not a lot of top end speed, but good agility, really good press skills, and I think that he can, especially for those that are a little bit that have the sour taste in their mouth from Eli Apple, who's still on the roster. Well, now you don't have to worry about Eli being on corner Cooper Kupp at the goal line. Now you can put Roger McCreary instead of him and have throw Eli elsewhere. And then lastly, ironically, once again, me and John did not. I shared my mock earlier with John, but I feel like we made our mocks independently. Ironically, I have Malik Willis here at number 32 for the Detroit Lions. I felt like it was a really good spot too. Jared Goff, like I mentioned, maybe he does good the first few weeks, or maybe Malik even wins the job outright soon. But nonetheless, gotta give the fans a little bit of hope on the offensive side of the ball. You can't always, rely on knee biting and stuff there, Dan Campbell. You gotta have a little bit of passing game. Thought about wide receiver there too, but I just think deep class. Probably gonna be more wide receivers next year. At this point, we're getting a lot of good wide receivers. So I think the Lions kind of stand pat, but I think they're going to probably trade that pick. So last 4, Derek Stingley to the Chiefs, Alec Pierce to the Chiefs at 30, Roger McCreary to the Bengals, and then Malik Willis to the Lions. That 5th-year option.
Yeah, I mean, these are all very similar to what I did. I had Chiefs going wide receiver, and I think I had him take a safety. So, secondary guy, though, to help out the back end. For the Bengals, I mentioned Roger McCreary as someone who I thought they might take.
Which once again is ironic because I put him there before we even talked. So.
Yeah, which I didn't have him taking him. I had him taking a safety as well. But once again, similar thought process, help the secondary out. And then, Malik Willis to the Lions. So I like all the picks. I like the rationale behind them, especially the Bengals one to not allow Eli Apple in single coverage out in the Super Bowl. Because I think he's a good depth corner as like your fourth guy, not your second.
I think he's more of like a 2, maybe 3, depending on the scheme. But yeah, I know what you mean.
4 as in like 1, 2, 3 is your nickel guy, but like 4 is your first guy off the bench for outside,
Oh yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah, like I he's never going to be number 1. I think he could be okay 2 or 3, but to each his own. Nonetheless, we both feel that they needed to upgrade that.
Yeah. So anyway, good mock draft for the most part. I agree with a lot of the picks. I mean, we have some like that are a little bit different, but
Marcus Jones might be is definitely one that I do not see that guy going in the first round. Probably be late second, third.
But even then, like I mean, I almost had my first go around when I was making my mock draft. I almost had I was playing on his last name, Tariq Woolen, I think from UTSA, the corner. Yeah, I almost had him going to the Bills right there. So, I think in principle for most of the picks we are pretty similar on like the rationale behind the options that we went with. So, yeah, I totally agree with everything you had.
Alrighty, so that is that. Those are our mock drafts for the 2022 season. Obviously, I told John, like, obviously now I might tinker with it a little bit. We hear although not all the news we're hearing now is true. It could be a lot of noise. We hear a lot of noise this time too. So I guess be mindful of that.